Today's lesson is Internet Cookies, helpful tool or privacy concern? Hello, everyone. I'm Mike.
I am Roger, and again today we're going to be continuing to talk about cookies. Internet cookies, not the ones that you eat, although I suppose after today's lesson, if you're hungry, you can head down to your local bakery and get yourself a dozen cookies. That does sound rather tasty, but we are talking about the computer cookies that we use on the internet or websites use for various reasons. They help us log in more easily, they help us have seamless communication with the website, and they have information about us so that we can have items in our shopping cart that won't disappear. It just makes things convenient for us, but we sort of introduced the fact that there are different kinds of cookies at the end of our lesson yesterday. We talked about first-party cookies and third-party cookies.
Exactly right. The first-party cookies are those useful ones. The ones that, as Roger said, will remember what you've put in your virtual shopping cart before you go to the checkout. They're the ones that will remember your username and password on websites you use really frequently. Think of your email or your favorite news sites or things like that. Your music streaming service, so you don't have to constantly log in every time you open up the site. The cookies will remember who you are in the same way that a security guard in your building will recognize your face and you don't have to pull out your ID or something to show that you live there every single time you come home. So those are very, very useful. Those are the first-party cookies. Let's find out about the third-party cookies in the first part of the article here.
First-party cookies are created by the websites you visit directly. If a given website is trustworthy, you can typically trust any first-party cookies it creates. Third-party cookies, in contrast, are created by sites other than the one being visited, often through embedded content. For instance, if a site you're visiting has an advertising banner on it, then that content might create third-party cookies that track your activity across multiple websites.
大家好，第一部分介绍形容词 trustworthy， 它的意思是可靠的、值得信赖的。例如 Jerry gave his house key to a trustworthy friend. Jerry 把他的房子钥匙交给一位值得信任的朋友。或者 It's important to find a partner who is trustworthy. 找到一个值得信任的伴侣是很重要的。接着看到 multiple 这个单字，它是形容词，表示多个的、多种的，或是多种用途的。例如The website allows users to upload multiple photos at once. 这个网站允许使用者一次上传多张照片。又或者说 Stella made multiple copies of the file. Stella 把这个文件影印了好几份。
Okay, so we're going to talk about first-party cookies and third-party cookies. First of all, let's specify exactly what first-party cookies are. They're created by the websites you visit directly, okay? So they create these things directly. They're not done through another party, another company. And if a given website is trustworthy, you can typically trust any first-party cookies it creates, okay? So you probably can tell that the website is trustworthy. You've been there before. It hasn't caused you any problems, so therefore you can feel safe using their first-party cookies, the ones that they create. Now, if something's trustworthy, you can trust it, you can believe it, it's probably not going to give you any trouble.
Exactly right. So there you go. You've used the website. A lot of other people have used the website. It has a good reputation. It's trustworthy. You believe in it. You don't think it's trying to steal your credit card information or hack into your email or anything like that. So that's no problem. Third-party cookies, in contrast, now in opposition or in a comparison, and probably not a very good comparison to the more trustworthy first-party cookies, these third-party cookies, in contrast, are created by sites other than the one being visited, often through embedded content. So there you go. It's kind of sneaking into your computer. It's being let into your computer, but in an uninvited kind of way. You're not visiting the website of the company or whoever is making these third-party cookies. They're there on the website that you're visiting, but in the same way that if you invite a friend to your party and they bring two other people to that party who you don't know, you might not be so happy about that, because these are uninvited guests, basically. So they're on these websites, and they've been created by sites other than the one being visited. So let's say you're on a shopping website, shop.com, just to make one up. There are other cookies on there that are not created by shop.com, that have no connection to that company, and they're often there on your favorite, on that nice website, that website you want to visit. They're often there through embedded content. If something is embedded in something, it's basically been placed in it, it's stuck in there, it is part of that thing, but it wasn't originally part of that thing. For example, you see that they're laying down a new road or something. You take a coin and shove it into that wet concrete, it will become embedded in that concrete after the concrete dries. It'll become a part of that street, even though originally it wasn't supposed to be there. In the same way that if you have an insect that could get embedded in the hair of your pet, it kind of gets wrapped in there, it gets tied in there, it becomes knotted in there until it becomes almost a part of that pet's hair, so you have to cut the hair off in order to get that out. You can't sort of pull it out. It has become a part of that thing. So this embedded content, these are different little programs, different little cookies and other things, maybe viruses as well, that can be kind of stuck into these websites you visit. There's no way of avoiding it if you visit that website. And this is content that you don't want on your computer. Content just being a very general word for things that are created by people for some kind of use. If it's artistic content, it could be stories or songs or movies or things like that. If it's news content on a website, it's videos and articles about important events around the world. So content is just something that's been created. This, of course, is content that could be made for surveillance, to watch you and what you do using your computer.
Right, and remember, content is a non-countable noun, although if you make it a countable noun, contents, then you will see that in the beginning of a book, the table of contents, but here content is referring to all of the computer information that is embedded in this particular computer program. For instance, or for example, if a site you're visiting has an advertising banner on it, then that content might create third-party cookies that track your activity across multiple websites. So yes, check out the website and look for some kind of advertising banner on it, and if you see that, well then that content might create third-party cookies. Okay, so there you might see third-party cookies there if you see that advertising banner, and those third-party cookies will track your activity or may track your activity across multiple websites, not just the one you're visiting, but other ones. They might be able to follow you when you leave the website, when you're on, say, YouTube or something, and you go to Amazon, and then you go someplace else. They'll just keep following you, and they'll kind of monitor your activity. They'll check out what you're doing, probably to see exactly what you're doing in terms of purchasing and consumer behavior so that they can maybe send you an advertisement in the future, but they may actually be thinking about doing something more sinister.
Exactly right. And of course, you never invited them in to watch you and to sort of track you across multiple or many different websites. So that's something I think that also bothers people a little bit. You're being spied on and you had no say in the matter. Let's find out more about some of these cookies and these third-party cookies and exactly what kind of information they can gather and some of people's concerns about their ability to do this.
Such tracking enables the advertiser to better target its advertising. For example, if you look at a product on a shopping website, you might see advertisements for it on other websites later on. This practice has raised concerns about data privacy, so some governments have implemented laws requiring that users be offered the choice of accepting cookies or not. Along the same lines, while Google had previously announced plans to stop allowing third-party cookies on its popular Chrome browser, the company recently said that it would instead make them optional for Chrome users.
第二部分看到动词 implement， 它的意思是实施、履行或是执行。例如 The government plans to implement new policies to address climate change. 政府计划实施新政策，以应对气候变迁。也可以说 The restaurant has implemented a new order management system to reduce customer waiting times. 该餐厅已实施新的订单管理系统，以减少顾客的等待时间。再来介绍形容词 optional， 表示可选择的，非强制性的。我们可以说 Attending the party is optional, so don't feel pressure to do so. 参加派对与否是非强制性的，所以不要感到有压力。又或者说 For this recipe, adding a pinch of salt is optional. 关于这个食谱，加一小撮盐是可以选择的。另外补充这个字的名词 option, O-P-T-I-O-N, option, 指选择、选项或是选择权。造个句子 There were so many options on the menu. 菜单上有很多选择。另一个例句 Working from home is an option for most people at James's company. 在 James 的公司，大多数人都有居家工作的选项。
Okay, let's talk about the next part of our lesson here. It says, such tracking, the tracking that we mentioned above, enables the advertiser to better target its advertising. So if they track you, they are able to figure out what sort of advertisements you might respond to. Maybe you like toy trains or something like that. You were checking out maybe model train sets on Amazon or something. So they saw this information and then they follow you and they kind of send you advertisements that have to do with that particular hobby or that particular interest that you have. For example, if you look at a product on a shopping website, you might see advertisements for it on other websites later on. So you went to a shopping website like Amazon or whatever, and you saw an advertisement or you saw a product there, like I said, maybe a model train or something like that, and then they know about this. And then if you go to another website later on at a later time, you might actually see an advertisement there, and you might think, how did they know that I like that? I'm on a different website. I'm on a totally different website, but here's an advertisement. They somehow know, they somehow read my mind or have read my mind to know exactly what I'm interested in.
Exactly right. So obviously there's someone is watching what you're doing, and as Roger said, you might be okay with that. It might make your life more convenient by reminding you of things you might have been interested in buying, but just to know that it's always happening without you kind of giving permission, that does definitely worry people. It says this practice, this behavior or this usage of cookies to sort of follow people around even if they don't know about it. So this practice has raised concerns about data privacy. So some governments have implemented laws requiring that users be offered the choice of accepting cookies or not. Sort of surveying you and watching your shopping habits might be okay, but if they're also watching you, what political websites you might be visiting. In countries especially with free speech challenges, this could definitely be a worry for some people and could get people in trouble possibly even. So some governments around the world, I think most notably in the European Union, they've implemented laws requiring that users be offered the choice of accepting cookies or not. So not only are you told that third-party cookies may be used on this website to track you, are you okay with that? And you can opt out. You can say, no, I don't want the tracking cookies. I don't want these third-party cookies knowing what I'm doing and things like that. I think some of them you have to accept because you're using the company's website. Those would be the first-party cookies, but those third-party ones, now you have the option to opt out, to choose not to have these cookies. So this is a new law implemented in certain countries. As I said, I believe in the European Union, it's a very common one. When you implement a law, basically you have made the law, right? The government has written a law, debated it, voted on it, passed it, accepted it, but now they're actually using that law, right? There might be some laws on the books in different countries that maybe they haven't used them in a long time because times have changed, or maybe they put in that law just for an emergency situation, but now that emergency has arisen, has come about, they're going to actually use the law now. They will implement the law, put it into practice, put it into force, and actually be making people follow it instead of just sort of having it there but not really paying attention to it. So they've actually put these laws into effect. That's why if you do visit some websites that are hosted through European companies, they will have these questions allowing you to choose to accept or not accept these cookies.
Right, so along the same lines or similarly to what they're doing there, while Google had previously announced plans to stop allowing third-party cookies on its popular Chrome browser, the company recently said that it would instead make them optional for Chrome users. So we're talking about some laws being implemented in various places, and then along the same lines, very much like that, in a similar fashion, we've got Google doing something. In the past, they said they had plans to stop third-party cookies. They did not want to allow those third-party cookies on Chrome, which is a popular browser that a lot of people use. I use Chrome myself. It's just easier to use. But in any case, the company recently said that it would make them optional for Chrome users. So you don't have to get them. They're optional. You could probably go into the settings somewhere and say allow third-party cookies or not.
Exactly right. So that's a good thing for consumers because now it just gives us a bit more control over what we're doing with our computer and what our computer and these cookies know about us. So yeah, having it be optional, something that you can either choose to use or choose not to use, would seem to be the best way, along with, as we're doing here now, educating people about what cookies are used for and the good and bad side of accepting them and having them follow you around. All right, that's almost all that we have time for today, but we do have a little bit of our article left, so let's read through that, and then we'll come back to discuss it before saying goodbye.
In any case, while some cookies are fine, others are a little creepy. So if privacy is important to you, be sure to consider your options carefully before clicking Accept All Cookies.
最后第三部分看到 creepy 这个单字，它是形容词，指让人毛骨悚然的或是不寒而栗的。举例来说 Children wore creepy costumes for the Halloween party. 孩子们穿了令人毛骨悚然的服装参加万圣节派对。或者 Walking alone in the woods at night can be really creepy. 晚上独自在森林里行走真的会让人感到不寒而栗。
Okay, here's the final paragraph. It's very short, and it says, in any case, while some cookies are fine, others are a little creepy. Okay, creepy is kind of a fun word here. It just means it's very unusual, and it might cause you some sort of unpleasant feeling. For example, if your boss maybe puts his hand on your shoulder or something like that and says you ought to go out and have coffee with him later, well, that can kind of seem creepy. Hey, this is supposed to be a business relationship. You can't be doing something like that. It's kind of creepy. It's kind of unusual. It makes me feel uncomfortable. So yes, indeed, some of these cookies may be a little creepy. They may be a little sinister. They may be trying to do something that will cause harm to you.
Yeah, of course, if you're out there in public and some stranger just constantly keeps staring at you, that's kind of creepy. It's disturbing me. It's bothering me. It's making me uncomfortable in a way that I might feel my security, my safety is being threatened, or even there's some evil force at work here. That person doesn't want to do nice things for me. They're not staring at me to give me the best birthday present. They're staring at me for some other reason that I won't be happy about if I find out. So please stop being creepy. Leave me alone. So it says, if privacy is important to you, that's of course on your computer, be sure to consider your options carefully before clicking Accept All Cookies. Yes, you might have the option to opt out. Think about the website. Is it a website you will visit very frequently? Is it a website you kind of wouldn't mind if they know more about you? Like, on a shopping website, if you do a lot of shopping and you're always looking for interesting new ideas or bargains or offers, then maybe having that cookie kind of follow you around the store, as it were, and sort of saying over your shoulder, hey, you can buy this. Hey, there's this new thing. Hey, what about this? That might be okay for you. But if it's a website you've never visited before, if you're doing things on there that you don't want to be bothered with later in the future, then you might sort of choose to reject the cookies and not have them follow you around. All right, that's about all the time we have, but we do have our discussion starter question to come up right after we have a visit with our lovely Chinese teacher, Hanny.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny， 我们来看今天的文法重点。课文第3部分第一句写到 In any case, while some cookies are fine, others are a little creepy. 无论如何，尽管有些 cookie 没有问题，但有些则有点令人不安。那这边有2个重点，第一个重点是 In any case， 字面意思是在任何情况下，那它是指无论如何，不管怎样。 如果是 in that case， 这时候则表达那么一来既然如此。这个片语呢，通常就会摆在句首，然后用逗号跟后面句子隔开。假设咖啡没了，都被喝完了，只剩下茶可以喝，这时候你就可以说In that case, I'll have tea then. 既然如此，那我就喝茶吧。好，那第二个重点是 some others 这可以表达有些怎么样，有些怎么样。那这个用法是在没有限定范围的人事物里列举出两种群体的状况。Some 和 other 也可以当形容词，我们就会用 some 名词other 名词的句型表达。只是为了避免重复名词，这里的 other 加名词常常就改用代名词 others 取代。就像课文用法，它写 some cookies others 好，那我们也造个例句。Some people like summer, others prefer winter.有些人喜欢夏天，有些人比较喜欢冬天。我们句子里面就用到代名词 others 来代替 other people， 以避免重复。补充一下，假设只有两种类别，这时候会写作 some the others 去表达有些怎么样，那其他的怎么样。那注意这边就有加上了定冠词 the， 例如 Some of the books are in Chinese, the others are in English。有些书是中文的，那其他剩下的都是英文的。好，课文最后写到，因此如果隐私对你很重要，务必在点击接受所有 cookie 之前要仔细考虑你的选择。文中是用 be sure to 来表达务必怎么样。那我们这边来介绍一下 be sure to 加上原形动词的意思及用法。好，第一个呢，就是像课文用法，用祈使句的方式表达 be sure to 加原形动词，表示一定要做某事。那这个句型常用来提醒别人务必要做某事，像是Please be sure to take your belongings with you when you leave. 离开时，请务必将您的个人物品带走。第二个用法可以用 somebody or something be sure to 加原形动词来表达某人一定会做某事，某事一定会发生。像 Frank is sure to win the competition.Frank 一定会赢得那场比赛的，或是 The movie is sure to make you laugh. 那部电影一定会让你笑出来的。好，那以上今天重点整理，我们回顾今天单字吧。
Trustworthy. Lucy is a trustworthy friend who always keeps her friends' secrets. Content. Videos are one of the most popular forms of content on the internet. Multiple.Greg has multiple tasks that he needs to complete by the end of the day. Implement. The school decided to implement stricter rules to improve student behavior. Optional. The training session is optional, so you don't have to attend if you don't want to.
Discussion Starter starts now!
Now it's time for our discussion starter, and the question is, are you concerned about having your online activity tracked by third-party cookies? Why or why not?
I would say no, I'm not really worried about that. I would actually say that I only accept the third-party cookies on websites I use a lot for free. I kind of feel that if it's a website I use a lot and I'm not paying to use it in any way, but it gives me a lot of value, it gives me a lot of convenience, then I might sort of let them use my information. I figure that's the way that the company hosting the website gets money because I'm not giving them any. But generally I would reject most of them. And it's a fairly simple thing. You just sort of say reject, or if it asks you to customize, you hit that, and there'll usually be an option right at the top, which basically just says reject all cookies, and then you save and you go on with your life. So yeah, I try not to have them, but I do appreciate that sometimes good websites are being offered and given service for free, so occasionally why not?
Indeed. Well, yes, I am concerned given that sometimes these websites overseas know where I am, and a lot of times when I want to access content from a website, say in the United States, they're able to read my cookies and they can say, well, this content is only available to people in North America, but if I didn't have those cookies on my computer, they probably wouldn't know where I was, and then I could access their website.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Mike.
I am Roger.
See you next time.